is there a simple explanation as to why both UK and US stocks are currently plummeting? Should Southbank investors either sell or sit tight? Now, Doug, before we go into this question, Southbank does not have a house view. We have plenty of different editors here who have all manner of different investment views. So there isn't a broad recommendation we would give to Southbank investors generally. We let our readers listen to our editors' opinions and their own investment forecasts, and then make up their minds for themselves as to whether or not they want to follow them. And of course, Southbank Live, we do not give financial advice. This is for informational and hopefully entertainment purposes only. That said, we can discuss why both UK and US stocks are currently plummeting, as Doug would say. So, John, taking a look at the stock market, it has it's not been the best for certain stocks when we're looking at the UK and for the US. We have seen volatility pick up in the options market, the VIX index of late. What would be your take on to why UK-US stocks are having a bad time? Because interestingly, the US seems to be getting a bit hawkish with the whole tapering thing on when it comes to central bank money printing, whereas here in the UK, Andrew Bailey is actually all right to keep his foot on the gas and to keep things going, which is it's a bad thing really if you're a saver. Though I must say it wasn't unexpected when it came. Well, that's a double negative. I expected it that would be what the Bank of England would do. But looking at UK and US stocks, John, what's your take?
Well, let's think about where we started, okay? We started out with the US in particular being an extremely expensive stock market by any reasonable metric. Price-earning ratios, trailing price-earnings ratios, enterprise value to EBITDA, price-to-book ratios, price to sales. On any metric, and this is the important part, the only way in which you could explain away why those sorts of ratios were so high in historical terms was the low level of bond yields. And the only way you could explain the low level of bond yields was the fact that interest rates were still so low. And the only way you could explain why interest rates were still so low was because inflation expectations were still so low and the Fed wasn't concerned about it. Well, that horse has now left the barn, right? And the Fed, as you say, is clearly talking a more hawkish tone now, which they damn well better be. I mean, year-on-year CPI over 6%. So the stock market is extremely vulnerable now because inflation is not only elevated, but the central bank has recognized that it's elevated and is getting prepared to do something about it. Now, they may be miles behind the curve here, but the moment they do get moving, they'll be perhaps ever so slightly less behind the curve. And other factors equal, that should be negative for stock market valuations, especially given how stretched they were at the start of this process. Now, oddly enough, when you cross the Atlantic, what you find is that while the UK stock market is also expensive in a historical comparison along the sorts of ratios I mentioned, it's nowhere near as expensive as the US. And so there's almost a value case to be made with the UK stock market. And you can go one better. The UK stock market is also less heavy tech, which I believe is more vulnerable to this inflation-driven pressure. And it is more heavy basic industrials and mining, which is kind of where we started this conversation. Those are the sorts of firms that have very strong pricing power and are able to insulate themselves to some extent from the negative effects of inflation and interest rate increases on profits. So oddly enough, the UK looks like a bit of a safe haven here, given this this mix of factors. So the UK may be the bigger market. It may be the one that has enjoyed generally higher valuations than the UK for a very long time. But that very long time was a long time characterized by very low interest rates and very low inflation. And we're coming out of that now. So the UK may be a good place to hide as a result of these factors.